Alright, let's move on. We got our next color, which is Earth. This is probably, I think, one of my favorite elements. I see a lot of talk in Discord that people think that Earth is the worst element in the game right now, and I could not disagree more. I do not think Earth is... I think Earth's, like, color pie and strengths are so good that it's never great by itself, but everything it's in, it makes better. I think that stuff like Soiree is still playable in part because of Earth. I don't think Soiree would work if it wasn't Earth base. I consider Avalanche to be an Earth deck that happens to play enough fire cards to play Amaterasu in an aggressive deck, right? Rydia is still maybe one of the craziest cards in the game. I think that the Retainer package is really, really, really good. So I don't think Earth is in the worst place, but given that like my favorite deck has historically been Earthwind, I really like seeing good Earthwind cards. So let's see what all we get. First off, we have Undead Princess, which is a 1 CP 2K that has an action ability that gives a forward 4K power. And then second effect is you can remove her from the break zone during your turn in the main phase to give a forward 2000 power. It's interesting. Reminds me a lot of Tread. What was Tread's effect? Was it 1K first strike to a forward? Let's take a look. Tread. 3K first strike versus 4K period. I like the first strike a little better because that means that the blocker's going to be a thing, and like 3K versus 4K makes almost no difference really. It is interesting that you can pitch this for CP early, and then if you ever want the power boost, it's weird because you have to be proactive with the power boost, which is interesting. But I do actually, now that I think about it, I like the idea that like if there's an Earth forward that's really weak to Amaterasu, you can run a couple of these. Never have an intent to cast them, but if your goal is just to keep something from dying to Amaterasu, this will give it 2K, so it has to be a 7K forward with an on-entry effect that would be weak to Amat. Let's take a look real quick. If there's anything that like jumps out at me as being really nice. I want it to be less than let's exactly 7,000 power. Bosch Noctis. Noctis is 7. I thought Noctis was 5 off the top of my head. So this keeps a Noctis from dying to a Mott just by existing in your break zone. Like, so you don't even have to misdragon it. You just say like, okay, cool, you traded 1 CP plus the Amat plus a card in hand for me to not get a search off the Noctis. I don't think you even care at that point. Whoa. And you don't care about the main phase restriction for that. Arciela. Arciela is only weak to Amat on entry. That's another one that could be interesting. I did pass the ice cards, Travis. Yeah. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're like, who is School talking to? I'm doing these live on Twitch at the moment, so yeah. That's actually really interesting now that I think about it. I'll have to think about if you can make room for this in a retainer list. I mean, the downside is that you don't want to cast it with Noctis because then you're only having your Noctis fight for 2K. But like having incidental Noctis protection on just a card you pitch anyway is interesting. Yeah, that seems decent to me. And then anytime there's an Earth forward that is 7K power, that gives this card a buff then. Yeah, protecting RCL is really crazy. Also, make sure Titan board wipe everything that's 10k or lower as well. That's really nice. So yeah, I think there's a place for this card. Vanille. Love good common backups. When she enters the field, you remove a card in your opponent's break zone from the game. That's always nice. I love incidental break zone hate. You can make your opponent pay 2 for a summon. It's really good. You can look at your opponent's hand and know whether they have the ability to Amat you, and if you have this Vanille, maybe they can't Amat you anymore. You're trading 1 CP for 2 of your opponent. Anytime you can do that, that's decent. I really like the idea that you could also just like Azura to reactivate and then tap this to like sneak this on your opponent. That's really cool. Really good common. I think this is a solid one of. I haven't really liked Lail a lot lately. I guess Lail does the same thing, but Lail has to break itself. This is just always there, which is nice. Vincent. Man, Fire would kill for this backup for Megissa, wouldn't they? 5k to a forward on entry, damage 3, tap, break, 7k to a forward. These are both well above rate for a 2 CP backup, so also searchable off of Reeve. You can go 3 Reeve, 2 of this. You have an Earth Lightning backup fixer. That's nice. I think currently the best one of those people run is the mannequins. So I could easily see this slotting in there. If you don't want the mannequins to reduce next death or something. Ico. This is a really cool card actually. For a rare. 2 CP 5k, dole 3 summoners, and cast a 7 cost summon for free. Ideally, you're gonna do something like tap Iridia and tap a Yuna, and then tap the Ico as well. She can tap herself. I kind of like the lure of like 3 summoners kind of pairing out to play a summon. That's really cool flavor. So if you're in water, you're paying 2 for a Sildra, but you paid for the Ico, so you're not saving anything. So it has to be cost 6. Remora would be solid. Levy 6 is never a bad card. If you're going tricolor, I know Phoenix is a pretty classic 7 cost summon. Pretty easy to get a direct break on something. Zeromus the Condemned is okay, I guess. That's a +1. You get a card back from the Zeromus and hopefully kill something. Yeah, really interesting. Kind of happy they restricted it to 7, so you can't cast Arc off of this thing, but I do love Summoners as a concept. Kind of always wanted that deck to be more playable than it actually is. Graph. When Graph enters the field, you break it forward if you pay with only Earth CP. So it's kind of like a Robo that costs 1 more but doesn't need the crystal. It's fine. I don't think this will see a lot of play because you need like 3 Earth backups and an Earth card in hand to pitch for this. Just a little bit too many hoops to jump through, but it's not a bad card. They seem to really value break at like 4 CP plus conditions, so this is like 5 CP plus conditions, which for a common makes sense. Kafka. Really cool card. So this is the Earth Legend. Love mono art legends. Just inject these into my bloodstream, please. Don't do that. That sounds unhealthy. But 5 CP, 9k. If your opponent has 3 more forwards, Kafka is literally free. It's a 9k Brave, and then when he dies, you get to cast a summon of cost 4 for free. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. First things first, I love free forwards. Um, it still counts as a cast. You're not like cheating him into play off of that. He's obnoxious. Relevant for CP summons. 4 CP Alexander. Break a big thing. Sildra. I like drawing 2 cards. Let's see, what other like good 4-drop summons are there? Leviathan, stack something to the deck. Remora, if you're in like Earth Lightning, you kill something and then buff something else you have. That's decent. I think the theme of this set is Sildra really, really should be banned. But, Zolaire, the Death Seraph, sounds kind of funny. Just break all the dull forwards your opponent controls of a certain size. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on here. I think the really interesting thing about Kefka is there's nowhere on this card that says you have to play Earth CP for this. If you're in a deck that is weak to aggression, you can play this as a lighter dark card that doesn't function as a lighter dark card, essentially. Like, it's off color, but it's effectively this discards in that situation for dark CP. I think Wind might really like that, for example. They're scared of, like, being rushed down. You could, like, run 3 of these in a mono Wind deck. And then your opponent, slams down the 3 forwards. You put down the big Kefka, and then when he dies, you get a free Chocobo search or something. Yeah, it just seems like a good way of tamping down aggression a little bit, which is really nice. I love that about Earth. Really, really good off of Noctis as well. Just a free cast 9k ping that your opponent doesn't want to kill. Genova Synthesis. So another weird, like... Oh, I didn't start my timer. Whoops. Not a big... Maybe I probably did start my timer. I probably typed in something. I think I hit 7 at some point. Reset on an accident. Whoops. Genova Synthesis is, I don't think, very good. So the idea here is, if you're playing this with 5 Earth backups, it's 8k board wipe, but I don't really care about board wipes when I'm on 5 backups. I feel like I should be just like, I mean, I guess like it closes out the game. It only hits your opponent, but I don't see what deck plays this when Earth already has Titan and Shadow Lord and Shantoto, and if you want to kill stuff in Earth, there's a gazillion ways to do it. You don't really need this to do that, let alone the deck building restriction on mono Earth backups, right? And 5 CP to do 4k cleave is just not nearly good enough, so I don't really like this card at all. Astro Protoflorian, or Astro Protoflorian. Maybe one of the funniest monsters in the history of the game. You can pay 3 CP to do nothing. Which you never would do. But, nah, the real reason to go for this is you pay 2 to break a forward and pay 2 to break a backup. So, of note, there's no restriction on the backup. It can't be, it's not like it has to be 3 or higher, like the Hecaton Shear has to hit. That's never bad. Backup destruction, especially for low-cost backups. Think of breaking like a Shinju or something would be like pretty devastating, but you're not going to pay 5 for that, so you have to be worth paying 7 to break a forward and a backup. And it's all Earth pips. That's the other really difficult thing on this card. I think it's just a little bit too conditional, so unfortunately I don't think this is really good enough for modern play. Animist. This card rules. I love this card. This is the standard unit backup cycle from the set. It's got a tap and break, and this one taps and breaks. Pay 1, play a monster of 2 or less. How many good hero 2 CP monsters are there? Like, and you can run them now off color. Say you want to run Tros as a defensive card now. I'm just going to go down the list of like really crazy 2 CP monsters. Echidna, Melusine, Spectral Keeper, Tros, Hades, Atomos, Biblos, Jin, Blue Worm, Sahagin Chief has been really good lately. Bomb, if you want to just ping something. Zoo. Yeah, this card is so good. I really just love extra outs to Atomos in Earth. And it's even 2 or less. You can play a 1-cost monster if you want to get like a Goblin for haste or something like that. But I really think it's going to be the 2 CP heroes from recent sets that are going to put this over the top. Melusine, Echidna, Tros, Special Keeper, Atomos are the big ones. Biblos as well. Damage 3, search for a monster of cost 4 or less, so refunds the cost to pay the card. Hopefully if you're playing this, you've got enough monsters in your list where you're okay doing that. Not much more to say than that. This card is great. I love this card. This actually might be the new best Earth backup you can put in Earth Windstorm. Doga. I haven't played 3. I didn't know that Doga and Une had like monster forms. That's kind of sick, actually. So when Doga enters the field, you can discard a summon to gain 2 crystals. So it kind of turns him into Engelbert. You get 2 crystals for 4 CP on a much smaller body. But unlike Engelbert, this does discard for Earth CP, which is nice, so that's good. And then he has 2 action abilities, both of which require you to tap him. Fire, I think, is the really easy one to do, because you could, like, Goblin him for haste. I guess you could also play, like, Rain, which I think is one of my favorite cards that is kind of slept on to have access to either of these abilities, but you could pay a Fire and a Crystal to do 7k to all your opponent's forwards, or a Lightning and a Crystal to break a forward. Both of these are just supremely under-costed for the effect. With the main thing being that you're not paying Earth CP for them. You need to find a way to get the other CP. But Tyro, Kate Sith 11, Shantoto, all these cards exist. I don't think it's difficult. I like the idea that this probably gets you your Robo crystals in one shot, and it's Tyro searchable. That's really good. Yeah, I think it's a good card. I don't know how good it is and how much play I really want to see with it, but I think it'll see enough that I like it. Knocked. If a forward entered due to warp, knocked costs 1, and an EX burst he causes a fight. It's fine. I'm not convinced that warp is good enough to really justify putting this in your list. The only real warp card that Earth is going to want to play is like Charlotta and Sophie now. Maybe, but like I'm not convinced Sophie fits like the kind of Earth win list that would be playing a Charlotta as well. So I don't love this card outside of the EX burst. I'm never paying 6 for this effect. I have a friend that's really excited for it though, so maybe they know something I don't. Barrett. I love this card. This card is so cool. So I have a bad habit of playing in pre-releases and drafts and getting pet cards that I keep trying to make work in Standard. And my pet card from last set was Riku. Riku from last set is one of my favorite cards in the game, and I can't find a deck that I want to play her in. I think this Barrett really helps that Riku, actually, because now you can just pair that Riku and this Barrett, and you have 2 cards that both have massive targets on their back, and your opponent now has to deal with them. Otherwise, you're just going to board wipe them by playing all the best multi-element forwards in the game, right? I think that's really, really cool. I love the Marlene. Like, it's really cool art. I think it's one of the better compilation of Final Fantasy VII arts that we have. And I like the idea that when Barrett dies, he just recurs a forward. So he's a 4 CP 8k that's kind of like a 2 CP 8k that also does extra things while he's on the field. I think he's going to be really, really good. And especially Noct, like a retainer list, I could very easily see playing this card just because, you know, that extra 4K really matters with Noctis. So, sometimes. Yeah. Fenrir, this is the Earth modal summon. So, like the rest of the set, there's a summon that is overcosted for the effect, but becomes free if you put a forward in of that respective color this turn. The Earth one is break a multi-element forward or break a light or dark. I just don't think these are applicable enough. Breaking a multi-element forward is nice, but losing the summon speed part of this, like, you don't want to pay 3 for this effect, is really rough because now, like, you want to do this on your turn, but at that point your opponent's Zidane has now cycled your hand. Your opponent plays a Barret and then slams down 2 more Avalanche Operatives. I guess you pay 3 at this point because you don't have a choice or you're gonna die. But same for like removing Lightning. Like, you really want to remove Lightning, but you want to remove Lightning on their turn, not on yours. So I don't think stapling that onto a forward for 2 more CP is as good as a lot of the others. I don't think this one really is gonna see slots. Especially when Earth is so heavy on control and removal as is. Deathlord, 2 CP common backup. Pay 3 and tap, get 2 characters back, take a point of damage. I love the recursion element of this. I don't really like how expensive it is. 2 characters back is great, but you're paying 4 for them, so you're not really plussing your CP for the turn by doing this. You're like, the most common thing you're going to want to do is tap a backup, pitch an Earth card, sack the Deathlord, take a point of damage. The point of damage is like a net positive, but like, you really want to do this late game. Maybe that point of damage is too much at that point. I don't know. I don't really like this card, even though I really like self-damage effects. So I don't know. I don't see this really seeing a lot of play because like you're spending so much on this that you're not gonna really want to cast the characters you're recurring, right? Behemoth. 1 CP. When it enters the field, pay an Earth. You can lock an opponent out of attacking or blocking, which is not terrible. The big thing about that that's annoying is you have to have like 2 Earth backups. It's like you tap an Earth backup, play Behemoth, tap an Earth backup to do that, and then 1 Earth CP to make a 7k forward. So it's kind of like a 2 CP 7k, but if you want to be a forward, he taxes you 1 Earth every turn, which is, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. I think this card is okay. It's fine for a common. I'm not expecting anything crazy. Be really good at draft. Monk. I think this is one of the worst of this cycle of like 4 CP, 3 or more element, standard unit forwards. Buffing your field by 2k for 4 CP is not nearly as good as just a random first strike is, I think. And then like forcing a fight is like solid, but I don't know. Just feels like there's better things you can be doing at that point once you're at the ability to cast this card. I don't even think the Monk's synergy matters. It's too expensive. Yeah, Noct is the only Warrior of Darkness. They just kind of, I think they just had a bunch of leftover FFL art from promo stuff they just used for this set. Rydia. I love this card. First of all, this is one of my favorite full arts in the set. This card is adorable. I love it. She's so cute. Like, oh, I love this card. So 5 CP backup. That searches for a summoner and a summon that don't share elements. Add them to your hand. Probably the most likely thing you're going to be doing with this is you're going to search a summoner backup of another element. There are the relevant targets are Seymour in Lightning, Unalesca in Ice. Ice is going to love Ice Earth loves this card, and Yuna in Water. Those are the big ones, and then probably just add a Miss Dragon to hand. Is probably what you do. I'm trying to think if there's any other really crazy summoners that you'd want. Just do a quick search on FFTCG. Fortunately, a lot of these are named Rydia, which is annoying. Braska as a forward is fine. Yeah, that's the main one. You can go Ico's a good summoner. You can go Ico and search summoner forward, if there are any that you really care about. I guess you could go like Radia. Nope, actually no, you can't, because you can't go Ico, search Ico, and then play the Ico, because you'd be summoner locked at that point. So yeah, I mean the big thing is this is a really interesting backup engine now for Earth Lightning and Earth Water. I love the deck thinning aspect of it. I think the card is great, and I think it's just super adorable. I'm gonna probably get 3 boxes of the set, and I am praying this is one of my full arts. This is probably one of my chase full arts of the set, and I believe that is the last one we got. So I will go ahead and call it there, and we'll be back in the next video.